Welcome to Estherpreneur, a podcast for entrepreneurs doing business and life God's way. Each week, we discuss biblical and practical tips to improve your mind, business, spirit, and finances. Listen along as I speak with special guests on how to thrive in all aspects of life. Hi, I'm Edna, a certified John Maxwell executive coach and trainer and founder of Favor and Wealth, where we help the good guys win. So tune in as we bring on the light. Well, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are tuning in from all over the world. I'm just so excited that you guys took the time to tune in to our episode of the Estherpreneur podcast, where we have Elijah Lopez, who will be speaking to us about what he does, his journey in business and his life, and some wisdom nuggets that he's learned. Before I do that, I want to kind of tell you guys how I met Elijah. As you all know, I am a Rotarian, a proud Rotarian, and we had a luncheon, and actually Elijah was one of the gentlemen that was a guest, and he came up to me, he introduced himself, I introduced him, and like we scheduled a meeting, so we met at Starbucks, right? Was it Starbucks? I think it was.
Yeah, it was at Starbucks.
We met at Starbucks. I found out a little bit about what he does. He found out a little bit about my Estherpreneur program, which you guys have heard of, and we just kind of kept in touch from there. I saw him in a lot of events. We have some mutual connections, and I've been to his I think it's called Beers and Business. What's it? Beers and Brews. What is it called? I forgot. Business and
Brews.
Yeah, Business and Brews. Which I met several of my clients through. I don't know if you remember that, Elijah, but yeah. So I would go to it was Whole Foods, I think. Was it Whole Foods that they had it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Whole Foods. They had like a bar area. So anyway, my point is Elijah is not just a guest. I know him personally and professionally, and I can put an Edna approval on that one. I mean, like, he works in integrity, he works in excellence. I have a lot of respect for this godly man, and most importantly, I met his wife, beautiful couple, and I know he can add value to your assets, to your financial situation, wherever you may be. So before I go into what he does, let's give him some time to kind of introduce himself, his background, tell us a little bit about, where you grew up in, and tell us about your family.
Yeah, thank you so much, Edna. It's a pleasure to be a part of your podcast. I was born here in the Houston area, and I grew up in Houston, just mainly in the Galveston, League City area. Went to school at St. Mary's University, and I actually started off studying just theology. And my plan was to go into churches and to be a theologian or to be an adult minister and to work in churches for my entire career.
Wow.
And I ended up getting my theology degree, but 2 years into studying theology, I got some real world experience just working in churches and seeing what ministry looked like. Mm-hmm. And, life is all about figuring out yourself and what fits, and you're discerning different good opportunities.
Yeah.
But I realized that church work just wasn't for me. So I picked up a degree in finance as well. And I double majored in finance and theology, which was just a great opportunity for me because throughout the entire degree process, I was trying to figure out, what does God want for me? How can I balance these two disciplines together?
Yeah.
And I was able to learn that there's more than just church work when it comes to a theology degree. I met people that were ethicists. I met people that worked at the corporate level that were, serving God, but also serving corporations. And, I focused a lot during that time on Joseph of Arimathea, who's, the person who helps bury Jesus in the gospel. I've always found him to be really interesting, especially the fact that he's not brought up in the gospel, except for the fact that he was a well-to-do man that was able to purchase a grave for Jesus and to give him a resting place.
Yeah.
So whenever I first graduated school, there weren't too many opportunities in finance, wealth management. I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up taking a contract job with a company that did telecom, and it was a great opportunity. I felt like I was growing. I really appreciated the people that worked there. I had good mentors, but they got bought out by a Fortune 1000 company. And whenever that happened, management quickly flipped, and just the culture became really toxic. So I decided that I wanted to look for something in finance or wealth management. It had been a couple of years, and I ended up taking a contract position at Manske Wealth, just doing odd jobs around the firm that didn't really fit into anyone's wheelhouse. A couple months into me working at Manske Wealth, I really realized that I wanted to work for the firm full time. But the only issue was that there wasn't a position waiting for me. So on the last day of my contract, I actually lobbied for a job at Manske Wealth and somehow talked Chris Manske, the firm's managing partner, into hiring me. So I've been here since then.
How did you do
It's been
that?
about 5
How did you do that? Tell us about that process. Like, what did you say?
Yeah. I think I got lucky because it was literally one of the last days of me being there. So, my thought process going into it was, it's do or die. It's now or never. If things don't work out, at least I'm out the door anyway, and it doesn't have to be awkward for too long.
Yeah. So,
But, I shared with Chris that I loved the firm's culture. I loved how they tried to make a dent in the toxic culture that you hear about on Wall Street.
yeah.
And I just wanted to be a part of the team if there was any way that, there could be a position for me or something waiting. And, what I really appreciate about Chris's answer is he took me seriously. He said he needed some time to think about it, that he'd get back with me. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was about a week or so later that, we met again and there was an offer waiting for me. And the rest is history.
Wow. And see, what I love about that shows initiative. And a lot of times people don't realize that sometimes we pray for things to happen, but you don't do your part. You think things are just going to fall in your lap and be like, here you go. But you have to actually pursue it. God gives us courage. He gives us boldness. He gives us wisdom to pursue the things that are desires of our heart, especially if that's what God has called you to do. So I love that you actually, you created your own opportunities, Elijah, and that mentality is what a kingdom, this podcast is about, using kingdom principles, using, innovation, using things that are not of this world, and a lot of times God will give you an idea or an instruction, but for us we think sometimes it's our idea, but sometimes it could be God inspired and say, hey, do this. And even though it's going against your flesh, it's like, oh my gosh, like, what are they going to say? How do I look like an idiot? And so forth. And you take that, leap of faith, you jump off that boat, you go and pursue it. And then you get your result, your reward, whether if it's good or not. But most of the time, at least from my experience, when you take that courage to go pursue what God has put in your heart, it's usually a good result, when you actually take action. Go ahead.
I think in the Gospel of Matthew, where Jesus talks about anxiety, that really, it helps cement that courage for me.
Yeah.
God talks about, look at the flowers and look how they're taken care of, and look at the birds and look how they're taken care of. Yeah. Well, that gives me a lot of courage to be able to take risks, because I know that my God's always going to provide for me, for better or worse. He'll be there for me. So if he's speaking to me through my conscience or through my heart for me to do something, who am I to not try to put the effort in to make it happen?
Yeah, no, I love all of that. I love all of that. And it's just really believing as a child, with a faith like a child is like, what, like me, I have a daughter now, and when I say no, or if I say, like, it's like she just follows, she doesn't like question it. Well, sometimes she does have her little fussy pants, but for the most part, she obeys. And so that's how God wants us to be, like, to behave like children. Say, okay, Father, you got me in the palm of your hands. I trust you in the midst of what's going on. I'll obey whatever you have to say. So talk to us about your family, your wife. Tell us how you met, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, so my wife and I went to high school together,
Oh.
but we actually didn't know each other in high school. So we went to a big 5A high school. I think it's 6A nowadays. But we were in different grades, so we were never able to meet each other. But one of my best friends in high school went to our rival school. And my wife met that friend who I actually knew through church in a UT Spanish class, and they hit it off and became really good friends. So a few years down the road, that mutual friend ended up having a New Year's party, and my wife and I were able to meet there. We became friends and just kind of stayed in touch after the party. And then, something that was really different in my dating life, but it worked really well for our relationship, is we met each other mainly through friends. Like, we were group dating. We had friends in common. We would get together. We both knew that we liked each other, but we would just spend time together, and we would get to know each other before we entered this serious relationship. And I think that helped create a good foundation of communication and respect for each other, because it wasn't just this intense one-on-one relationship, but it was knowing each other through, our friends and through the people that think well of us. And then from there, it's, really just flourished into an amazing, beautiful relationship. I'm so blessed to, have a woman in my life who encourages me to work hard and to stick to my goals, and tries to find different ways to make those goals happen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really comes from just our shared understanding of, life, and what we want out of life, and morally, what we agree upon as well.
Yeah, it's huge. When you guys see eye to eye, you have the same goals, the same, same character, the same principles, the same values. It really makes a huge difference. Now, did you know she was the one? I always ask this question, like, did you know she was the one, like, initially, or did it something kind of grew? Like, talk to us about that journey, that process.
Yeah, so I don't share this a whole lot, but
Sorry.
probably 3 or 4 months into us dating, and I was like, I want to marry you.
Yeah.
And it threw off my wife, but she was like, okay, like, I agree. Let's, we're going to get married. And at the time, it just wasn't the right time for us to get married. We still both had things we wanted to build and things we wanted to grow upon. So we dated from, gosh, you're gonna get me in trouble here. I think it was early 2010s until 2017 when we were married.
Wow. Yeah. Well, at least you developed a long-lasting relationship and friendship. You guys had the same goal, and obviously you guys are married. Like I said, I've met her, and we I just saw, like, your guys' love for each other just come through. So I'm glad that. How has that, having a supportive wife or have someone who say value, how has that helped you in your business?
Yeah. Well, a lot of what I do is personal. That some of the things I know about my clients, it's things that they only tell me and nobody else. And I think when I can add insight from my relationship with my wife or what we're working through, it helps me be more authentic with my clients.
Yeah.
If I can say, yeah, this is a struggle that my wife and I went through, and this is how we overcame it, or this is something similar that we dealt with, and this is how we worked through together.
Yeah.
And realize that the way that we work as a couple isn't necessarily the 100% right way. We've made plenty of mistakes, but I think being able to offer what's been our experience, it takes things from the textbooks and it makes it more real.
Yeah. And I love that it sounds like, and that's how a lot of like people I like to surround myself with. It sounds like you're not looking at your clients as just this transaction. You have, a relationship with them, because they share a lot of personal things with you. Now, for those who are listening, who are you going to add value the most to? Like, what type of scenario would they need to be in order for you to provide the services that you offer?
Yeah, I really appreciate you asking. So the bulk of the folks that I work with are people that are careerists or executives that have a concentrated stock position. So that falls into 2 different categories. If you're an executive, it's pretty normal that you're paid in your company's stock, but insider information that's not public. And if you buy or you sell your company's stock with that insider information, you get in trouble for insider trading. Yeah. So I can help executives come up with sales plans that have been approved by their company's general counsel and the SEC, so they don't get in trouble with market manipulation or insider trading.
Yeah.
But especially here in Houston, where we have so many Fortune 500 companies. It's pretty normal that someone works for an Exxon or for a Shell for their entire career, and now they're about to retire, and a fifth of their net worth is Shell stock or Exxon stock, and that creates a diversification issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think the easy thing for people to think about in Houston is Enron, where tons of folks unfortunately lost millions of dollars in a matter of months because of the fraud that was existing. But I don't think it takes something as dramatic as Enron to realize that you have a diversification issue. I mean, just recently, in the last few months, Exxon has lost over half of its value, and it's trading at a price it hasn't traded at since the 90s. But if you know Exxon, if you've met people that work for Exxon, I mean, they're one of the most successful American companies. The mantra at Exxon has always been, buy Exxon stock and hold it until the day you die, because you're going to be able to live off the dividends. But, nothing is in life is for certain. You need to be prepared for anything. And if someone had the majority of their net worth in Exxon stock, they probably have their net worth cut in half over the last few months.
Right.
Outside of that, I've got a fair amount of clients that they're not necessarily U.S. citizens, or they don't live in the United States, but they want to have money invested in the United States. And for them, I'm happy to work according to the laws of the land that they work with to help them get assets invested in the United States. And in particular, that works really well when people have tax IDs or social security numbers. And then the last group of folks I've been working with a whole lot recently are people that are in between jobs. They're just trying to figure out their next steps. With everything going on with COVID-19, we have millions and millions of people unemployed, and we have double-digit unemployment. And I just want to be a resource for the community to help people figure out what to do with their 401k, what to do with their severance package, how to budget while you're in between jobs. I think that's a really scary position to be in. And if I can help make someone's life a little bit easier, I see that as a good thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything that you're saying is really important, because obviously the whole reason why people work and they save and they put money in investments is so that they can live off of it, right? When it's time, or if an emergencies and things like that. So making sure that you guys hire the person that's not only knowledgeable, about the particular thing that you're asking, but also works in integrity, works in excellence, right? And not only looking as a transaction, but have that personal relationship with you is important. And it sounds like, I know I saw something on LinkedIn recently, Elijah, where your boss got some award, or is that correct? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was you, like he won something, or he got, can you elaborate a little bit? Do you know what I'm talking about? I remember seeing it on LinkedIn. Is that recently?
I was just named a 5-star wealth manager, which is a big award that's put out every year. They do it in finance. I think they do it for CPAs, and they also do it for attorneys. Wow. But these are vetted professionals that are considered to be the best of the best in their profession. Part of the way that I found Manske Wealth is my boss, Chris Manske, had won the 5-star professional award for over 5 years in a row, which is a difficult achievement to do. But he had an interview in Texas Monthly just talking about his practice and the way that he took care of clients. So for this year, for me to win it, I mean, things just really feel full circle, because it's the award that attracted me to the firm. But now I've been honored to have that award myself.
Elijah, can you, I know this isn't one of the questions I was going to ask, but mentorship, being under someone who's basically took you in, it sounds like he kind of groomed. Do you feel like he groomed you and he helped you? Can you talk about the importance of that, having someone mentor you or even coach you in your particular field?
Yeah. So for my entire life, I've had just different sorts of mentors, whether that's like a spiritual mentor or a business mentor. So accountability and mentorship has always been really important in my life. And if you don't have an accountability partner, I'd encourage you to get one, because I mean, if you could have someone that's holding you to a standard, that's holding you to the commitments that you've made in life, it just makes things easier. And Chris's mentorship has really helped me grow. because, first of all, he's had experiences that he's trying to stray me away from, which it helps me save time. It helps me save energy because I'm either, bang my head against a wall for a decade and figure out something doesn't work, or I can learn from someone that's wiser than me that's had that experience that could just, help me get around that roadblock in the first place. But, I think the accountability also makes a big difference, because what I've really learned in the last 5 years is that all of life is a chipping away process. Whether that's you want to grow spiritually, you want to grow in business, you want to grow to meet a fitness goal, it's all about, chipping away at life. And for the work that I do, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And to have those goals and to slowly chip away at them every single day, and to have someone say, you said that you wanted to do this, why aren't you following through with it? I mean, it really makes a difference with making sure that I'm being honest and showing integrity to myself.
And obviously you're reaping the rewards, not just from mentorship, but obviously you apply whatever he's teaching you, whatever he's, stretch. And I know you, and I really believe that it's not just from him, but obviously when you had coaches and mentors and people who poured into you and gave you wisdom so that you could learn from their mentorship versus your own experience, sometimes it's a lot easier because you don't have to pay the price, right, for the lessons that they've learned through hardships and things like that. So we talked about your accomplishment. What would you say your biggest challenge that you faced in your business, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think it goes back to staying focused and doing the little things in life that they're not exciting, but they're important and fundamental to who you are. If I can stay focused on the day-to-day tasks, on chipping away at a goal, I've done something right. But I think that's the biggest challenge, because life gets in the way, life gets busy. Some days you're motivated, some days you're not motivated. But if you can, day over day, stay focused on a goal, slowly work at it, I mean, that's how you achieve success.
So how did I forgot to ask earlier, so how did you come to know Jesus? Like what was that journey like? Was it when you were a child? Was it a teenager? Like how did that come about?
Yeah, so I'm a cradle Catholic.
Okay.
So I grew up going to church. We went to church every single Sunday, and I had a classic Catholic family. Most of my friends were Catholic growing up. And I really became interested in faith at junior high. I mean, I had gone to Sunday school as an elementary school kid, but my faith life really became my own in junior high, because it was the first time that it had ever been pushed onto me as a duty, or it seemed like a duty to follow Jesus and really live by his teachings, and to try to have the discipline it takes to follow Christ. And after that, I think it just continued to flourish into an interest in theology and learning more about the struggle that I think Christian leaders have had to go through for decades. I think understanding Christian theology, regardless of what your background is important for being a Christian, because I think iron sharpens iron. It's taken years and years for theologians to agree upon things. And if you read some of the goofy ways that people have agreed upon things, I mean, it really shows that it's been a struggle. And to, I think understand that thought process and the way that we've had to sharpen iron over time. It's fundamental for knowing our identity as Christians.
And a lot of people, I think that's really important, Elijah, because a lot of people believe what they believe because they're born into it, like you said, their parents, and I don't know, but I had like a soul searching time when I wanted to study. I just wanted to know, like, why do I believe what I believe? Is Jesus the real thing, and it's just, and it's okay. Like, don't feel guilty about that, and I'm just encouraging for you guys who, kind of have questions, like, it's okay. Like, he can handle your questions. The thing about God is, like, he can handle your question. And the more I searched it out, the more it just proven the things that he's done in my life. There's no way I would have been able to overcome the things I've overcome if it wasn't because of Jesus. A lot of people think that religion or, God is a scapegoat. But I really think it's easier for you to believe in the facts versus the things that you can't see, right? Because it's going against your flesh. So to believe in something that you can't see physically is actually harder, because they say, oh, it's just, you just want to, have you ever heard that before? You just believe in God because you don't want to accept reality or whatever and so forth.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'm like, do you know how hard it is to believe in God when things are completely the opposite? So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Now,
And I think also when you're, struggling in your faith life and you have questions that you're trying to figure out, God has put those questions on your heart for a reason.
yes.
And to not listen, to not really explore those, and to seek knowledge and truth, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. God gave you the, gift of reason for a reason. And if we're not, using our brains to think through some of these bigger challenges in life, I think we're not using the gifts that God's given us in the way they were intended to be used.
Yeah, that's so good, Elijah. And I appreciate you sharing that. So for those of you guys who are listening, think for yourself. Use your brain, right? Use your brain. It starts in our minds. Those ideas, those thoughts, and everything. Don't just brush it away. It really. And the thing about it is, when you seek it out and you find your answer, it'll just make you confident in what you know, because you know that you know that you know. Does that make sense? So tell us how you incorporate biblical principles in your business, Elijah.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I love by St. Francis that says to preach the gospel at all times and to use words when necessary. My commitment to being a professional is the most important to me. I want to be there for my clients. I want them to know that they can be open and honest with me. So, if you look at my bio, you can see that I'm a member of my local Catholic church. You can see that I have a degree in theology, but I really try to not push that as a large part of who I am as a professional. But I think one of the special services that I offer that really incorporates my faith is ESG investing, which is environmental, social, and corporate governance. So I had mentioned earlier that one of my first investing experiences was managing part of the endowment for St. Mary's University, which is a Catholic institution.
Yeah.
And because they're a Catholic institution, they can only invest in specific investments that fall in line with the Catholic Church. Like we weren't allowed to invest in companies that are defense contractors because war is, against the Catholic Church, things like that. And it helped me understand that people need to have the ability to invest according to their conscience. So now I have clients that are all sorts of different faith denominations, but whenever they mention that they're interested in investing based off of their conscience, I can help them screen specific companies and get a better idea of what they're looking for and make sure that their portfolio matches who they are. Because I don't think anyone should have to compromise who they are just because they want to get money invested.
Yeah, that's so good. I actually have never heard of that concept before you. So I'm really glad that you offer that, because it's really important. It's your values and who you are, what you believe in. It's your core. It's you. Right. So you definitely want to put your money there as well. Something that supports your values and your goals and your visions that whatever faith you're in. So can you tell me a wisdom nugget that you would share for those who are struggling right now? Struggling entrepreneurs. Like what wisdom nugget, or struggling business professionals? What would you share with them today?
So going back to life being a marathon and really being focused on chipping away at things, I think having a plan in mind helps. So to create a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, and then just a long-term plan. Recently I was told that you only have so much time in the day, and you can probably prioritize about 5 things every year. But outside of that, everything else needs to fall to the wayside in order to meet those 5 priorities. And I encourage someone, when they're creating these, long-term plans, the 5-year plan and the 1-year plan, only try to pick about 5 things, but be holistic with it. Is that your workout goals? Is that your career goals? What are you trying to chip away at this year, the next 5 years, in the long term? and then stick to it. It's really easy to get derailed. You're 3 months in and you said, I really wanted to get $5 million in new business, but that's not going to happen. So this is for the birds. I'm done. Well, don't give up. It hasn't even been a year. Keep working at it. And, if you fall short of your goal, at least you created a goal and you had a vision in mind. Figure out why you fell short and then try to overcome that in the future. But if you just give up, you're not working toward anything.
Yeah, and I always believe that, we, like, for example, the plan just helps you get to your destination, right? So here's a roadmap. This is your destination. This is where you are now. And guess what? There will be detours sometimes because life happens. But guess what? You could take that detour and you'll find your way back to the route and end up to get to your destination. So be okay with the detours as well in life, because as you know, Elijah, we could plan our lives and think that it's going to be perfect and absolutely butterflies and roses and flowers and things like that. But at least you know where you're going. So once you get back, you look at your plan like, okay, this is where I need to go. All right, I'm taking a detour, but I still know where I'm going. So you take the necessary actions to go to your destination. That's how you have a plan B, right? You got to have a plan A. If you don't have a plan A, you won't have a plan B, right? So you got to make sure you got to think of a plan so you have something that you can actually follow, make it practical, step-by-step action. This is what you need to do in order for you to get $1 million in assets or whatever it is that you want to do. And then follow it and understand that life will happen, but you could still go back to the plan and adjust it as necessary, but have a baseline, something that you will work with. And sometimes I know a lot of people can't do it on their own. That's why you hire experts, advisors, someone like Elijah to help you manage those situations or those risks that you have to take, but make it calculated, right? Because you know the industry, you know what's going on. And so something that might scare someone normal, like when I say normal, like regular people like us, won't scare you because you're like, oh, it'll be fine. This is how you do it. So go ahead.
Ahead of the market dropping during COVID-19, I had been preparing my clients for the last 2 years for a bear market.
Wow.
And it's not because I have a magic crystal ball. If I had a magic crystal ball, I'd be on a beach somewhere. But there were economic indicators that pointed toward a material drop in the market. Come January, I had a few clients that were starting to get antsy. They were saying, we're seeing the market go up. When is this bear market going to happen? And I had to share the exact same thing. I don't know when it's going to happen, but we need to be prepared for it. And come February, when we started to see the market drop, I didn't get a ton of calls of where people were anxious or they wanted to sell or they had this knee-jerk reaction. A lot of what I heard was, you said this was going to happen. We didn't know it was going to be COVID, but it happened. We have a plan. Let's see it through. And when you're ready for those roadblocks in life, I think it's easier to stick to the plan and to get ready for it.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a really interesting story here in Houston where a liquor company, their distillery, they started making hand sanitizer. And I think it kind of goes back to your point of sometimes when detours happen, you have to be ready to have a plan B. I'm sure when this company went into distilling alcohol, they were not planning on selling hand sanitizer. But there was a big need for it here in Houston. We were running low, especially in the early spring. And they really rose to the occasion. Pretty much any store you went into, you would see their hand sanitizer. Wow. But they were ready for the change to happen, and they responded appropriately. And I think that's real neat.
That's right. Pivoting your business to meet a certain need, identifying opportunities. A lot of times people panic during crisis. Like, are you kidding? This is the perfect time to create solutions because people are always looking for solutions, right? And so for those of you guys who are listening, don't let what's going on with the pandemic and the shutdown and all this other stuff stop you from pursuing your goals. Just be creative, use your brain, be innovative, come up with opportunities that or a solution for situations or problems. So don't short sell yourself. We're a lot more smarter than we think. What was the statistic that we only use a small percentage of our brain? I think it's like 20% of our brain or something like that. And so we have to ask God to help us use our whole entire brain, because I really believe that He has given us ideas and whatever facets or influence you have in, Elijah has a financial sector, but you could have a different sector, and just, stir up those gifts, because those are inside of you, and your job is not to hoard it, but to release it and give it to the world, because people are looking for solutions. Now,
Yeah.
can you tell me what your personal mantra is?
Yeah. There's an archbishop from South America. He's passed away.
Yeah.
And he's actually on the way to becoming a saint in the Catholic Church. But he talks about how our goal in life is to plant seeds. And we don't know what the result of planting seeds is, but our goal in life is just to be farmers and to plant seeds. And that's really become my mantra over the last few years. Sometimes we're able to see the crop all the way through and to see how it flourishes and becomes something beautiful. But sometimes we plant a seed and we never get to see the benefit of that throughout our life. And that's not important. It's not what God had intended for us. But our goal is to be prophets of the future, and to just help folks out where we can.
I love that. Plant seeds, and that's really, it's, the Bible even says, be fruitful and multiply, right? It's all about seed time and harvest. Like, you plant your seeds, you don't know how it's going to grow. Even the farmer, when they plant seeds, they don't know when. You don't keep like, hey, are you going to grow? Are you going to, all of a sudden, there's your harvest, right? All the things that you've been planting, you're able to provide for the next generation or generations to come. And sometimes we're not going to be able to see it, but just know that the work of your hands, the things that you do, will never be in vain. And as long as you continue to plant the right seeds, and Elijah, you can plant the wrong seeds as well, right? Right? And then the tree, right? The fruits are evil, right? And then the fruits are good. So there's two, right? Your fruits could be good seeds or bad seeds. So make sure you guys are planting the right seeds, and you're actually making the world a better place. You're helping build people's lives. You're helping encourage people. You're bringing hope. You're bringing truth. You're bringing joy. Don't be the opposite, right? And instilling fear, instilling rejection, instilling whatever it is, because there is a difference. But yeah, you're right. Planting seeds are important, and knowing that it will have its effect, whether you see it or not, good or bad, unfortunately, but it will have its effect. But yeah, and I could say that Elijah lives like that, because like I said, I met him once, and then we kept throughout the years, and I kid you not, it's like every few months or every 6 months or a year, I'll get an email from Elijah, hey, let's catch up, let's get to, and of course I was pregnant, I had a baby, lots of things happened, but my point is like, he keeps in touch, and and I feel like you're really good at building, strengthening relationships with people. You have systems in place to do that, and it's not with wrong motives. I have to add that, because there are some people who build relationships to get something, but really, Elijah, like, I see your heart, and your heart is truly to add value to people and help them with their goals. And he didn't tell me to say that. I literally just just want to make sure. But I appreciate you so much. What would you, if people are interested in connecting with you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
I think the best way for someone to learn a little bit more about me is through our website, which is www.manskewealth.com. That's MANSKE wealth.com. Or if you'd like, just call our main number. Natalie's there. She'll pick up the phone and transfer you over to me. And that line is 713-581-1994.
And I'll be putting it in the description box below, so you guys will be able to see it as well and contact Elijah. Now, do you have any last minute like wisdom nugget that you could share with people who are listening right now to kind of help transform their life?
Yeah, I think building on your idea of planting seeds, there's a non-denominational theologian I like a whole lot. His name's Shane Claiborne, and he talks about using your talents to build the kingdom. And he's talked about where there have been times where he's gone and done marches or demonstrations, and they have massage therapists that are Christians, and they'll give massages to the people's feet after they've been marching all day.
Wow.
And it's really important, regardless of who you are or what you do. God has blessed you with certain gifts and talents, and use those to build the kingdom. figure out how you can coach other folks and, make that a way of building the kingdom. One thing I try to do is I try to help underserved populations by giving them financial education. But, regardless of what you do, God's blessed you with it for a reason, and find a way to serve God's kingdom through doing that.
That's so good. And on that note, Elijah, will you take a few minutes to pray for our listeners and just put whatever is in your heart?
Yeah. So this is actually a prayer that I have in my office. So it's become a personal prayer for me. The goal in our life is to live with God forever. God who loves us gave us life. Our own responsive love allows God's life to flow into us without limit. All the things of this world are gifts of God, presented to us so that we may know God more easily and make a return of love more readily. As a result, we appreciate and we use all these gifts of God insofar as they help us to become loving persons. But if any of these gifts become the center of our lives, they displace God and they hinder our growth toward our goal. In everyday life, we must hold ourselves in balance before all of these created gifts, insofar as we have a choice and we're not bound by some obligation. We should not fix our desire on health or sickness, wealth or poverty, success or failure, a long life or a short one, for everything has potential of calling forth in us a deeper response of our life in God. Our only desire and our only choice should be this: I want and I choose what better leads to God's deepening his life in me. Amen.
Amen. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's so good. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for praying with us, Elijah. And for those of you guys who are tuning in, and you meet the criteria that Elijah was just mentioning earlier, in between jobs, or if you have disposable assets right now that you're trying to transfer to a legitimate, how would you even describe it, Elijah? Because I'm probably butchering it. So if they have disposable assets, they've been what do you call it? Careerists, right? Careerists, right? And you or your people from somewhere else in another part of the world, and you want to invest in stocks in the United States. Is that correct? Am I saying this correctly? This is a coaching thing for me. And then the last one is helping people who are in between jobs and want to know what to do with their 401k or whatever it is. Is that correct? Am I saying this correctly?
Yes.
Contact Elijah. Well, there you go. I know, of course, you could just contact him directly on his website. And his website has all the information, I'm sure, and call him directly as well with the number below. So, Elijah, I appreciate your time. Thank you, brother, for coming here and speaking some wisdom to us and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
And for those of you guys who are tuning in, keep shining, keep doing the right thing. Whether people see it or not, God sees you and he will reward you openly. And just remember that you are loved by him. So God bless you guys. Tune in to another episode of the Estherpreneur Podcast, where we teach people how to do business and life God's way. Thanks, and talk to you all soon. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on Estherpreneur. Make sure to visit our website, favorandwealth.com, for more information on our services. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that would help me out too. Also, check out my book, The Ugly Side of Sales, available on Amazon, where I share 7 of my secrets on how to win and grow business the right way. Until next time, keep shining.